guys, this is me, Malorian, and this is going to be a channel update, and kind of letting you know the state of things. So, I've been doing this for a long time, and by this, I just mean supporting hobby stuff. And it's been stuff where, like I've been running games out of my basement for over a decade, probably a decade and a half type thing, maybe 2 decades. It's been kind of a while, and that's transitioning into running events, running campaigns, helping the community forge as far as like provincial, writing battle reports, like writing them, doing video battle reports, and doing the whole YouTube thing. And the main thing is that now I've decided is the time to end, and there's several reasons for it, and so I thought I'd just kind of, I don't know, maybe just quickly give a recap now of, it's kind of two-sided. It's kind of on one side the local community of how things are going on here in my area and my efforts here, and then the other part is on the YouTube side and what's happening here. So let's start more local. So of course, like I said, been running things for a while, but and I gotta say, like, it's always been something where it's something where I said before, you have to be a source of positivity. If you want the community to grow, you have to put effort in. You have to make sure, like, if nobody's running events, nobody's going to have events to go to. If nobody is trying to go hurrah, hurrah hobby, no one's really getting amped up to play. So I was always trying to be that guy. And, a lot of times I take a loss in one way or another. A lot of times it's financial, where if I run an event, I come a little bit short at the end, but no big deal. But it's also been the cost, from the family part, right? Where as much time as I go and I spend to run a tournament, well, that's also a weekend I'm not with my family and stuff like that, right? So it's always been taxing, but it's always been, I felt in the end, worth it. I have my time that I should be able to invest in the community, and it's worth it because that gets to go in. But there was a trigger that happened earlier this year, and it is a completely different landscape. Pretty much the details of it was that we went to a large local tournament here. There was a sign that was talking about how in the other hall, we were in one hall, and in the other hall there was these Special Olympics, basically, and I made a post up just talking about how, like, tournament organizer, since I brought Buccaneers, should I be going into the other one? And man, if I would have known how that was going to explode and affect my hobby career, I would have never done it. It was, at the time, an innocent little thing, no hard feelings made anywhere, but it exploded big time, and it really turned into a big group of the community that was definitely not happy with me. And I'm one of these people that I always look for the win-win. When something comes up, I try talking and saying, all right, well, can we do this, can do this? And there was no reasoning with it. In fact, it seemed the more I reasoned with it or tried to reason with it, the worse it got. And it just spiraled more and more out of control. Whereas on the other side, where, my closer, I maybe call it inner circle of friends, and it just got really, really nasty. Since then, things have, I thought, cooled down, but it has become very clear that it is not cooled down. There are still several people who are completely against me and hate my guts. And it's insane because, it'll come out of nowhere, right? I'll think that everything's cool, and I'll just be like chatting about something, and then boom, it just explodes, and it's amazing the vile that comes at me. And usually I try to reason with it, like I say, and typically it gets me absolutely nowhere. It is just whatever idea came out there, it is now very clear that half the community believes that I am a person who is extremely disrespectful and use people, and I just spread my stupid memes and battle report, all these things where I don't take offense if you don't like my battle reports or my memes. That's nothing off me. But the big thing is that if half the community is adamant that I am a bad person who's not to be supported, I can't run events. Normally, whenever I would go and run just a simple painting league, if I was to go and put up something like, hey, we're going to do something here, or we're going to be trying to paint at least 15 points every single month, and it'll be like a year-long thing, you're trying to get to 150 points, blah, 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 I would have tons of people join. I just had to start a new one now, and very few people signed up. It would be probably a quarter of what signed up the last time, maybe even less. So very apparent from that. And one of the things that I'm definitely looking forward to in terms of looking ahead in my schedule was my Big Blood and Gears. Like I've been running lots of tournaments, and this is the one that's my crown jewel, because it is the big huge Masters. That's the one where I had like the engraved sword, and it was awesome. And last year was bad. Last year I had the venue turn its back on me and not honor our agreement, and I basically went 4 digits in the negative trying to make that work. And so I cannot take that loss again. So I've been trying to gauge kind of from the community where it's standing, where right now there's a few people who don't like Mark III, so there's that I'm worried about, people who left, and then also people who just don't like me. And if I do this, if I go and I rent a hotel and I invest thousands of dollars, and then all of a sudden the people don't come, well, that's not just a hit to me. Like again, let's look at, I said with the time of the tournament, that affects my family. This last year here was our 15th year anniversary, and normally I think that I'd be taking my wife somewhere, and it was just like, well, the money's not there, so we just had dinner type thing. And it's like, you know, if I wouldn't be taking these losses, those 4-digit losses like that, well, then I could have taken my wife somewhere. We could have done something. So it has real impacts, and I just can't stand to take that again. And one thing that's also been clear is that whereas, you know, if it was the odd person here and the odd person here, that wouldn't be so bad. But it's also the local store owner, who I also learned is now this completely has me in his bad book. And I mean, if there was a hope, if there was a hope of a shred of a hope that I was going to be able to turn the community around and then convince people that I'm the good guy, well, if I have the local store owner who is, I mean, it's not just like Joe Jimmy sitting behind the counter. He runs an event every 2 months. He is very supportive of the community. Like, he's a good guy, right? So you'd think that we'd be working together and everything is double awesome, but it's not working like that. And so when I even have a figure like that has turned their back on me, I can't make things work. And so I'm decided that I'm not going to run events anymore. I'm just going to stop. I'm going to, if anybody wants help, you know, if anyone in the community says that they want to run something but they're not sure how, or they need some help with terrain or mats, sure, I'll help with that, no problem. And I can, you know, assist them and all that type of thing if they even want my help. There's a 50-50 they don't. But it's time for me, you know, maybe after, as I said, close to 2 decades, that I do step back and I just spend more time with my family and just going to enjoy being at events. I mean, it's not even a thing where I'm running all the events in the community here. I mean, there's, like I said, that store owner runs one every 2 months. The people run them all around for the other one. So, you know, I don't feel like I'm sweeping the legs of the community. I feel like I can step back, and there's already a strong presence from what's still there, and I'm sure others are going to step up to the plate. So as far as that goes, that's where I've kind of decided locally I want to step back. And now we come to YouTube. I've been doing YouTube for a while. Same type of story where I started writing up the battle reports. So once been doing all the video ones, I want to get into that, and I loved it. It was so great. It was good for the people watching me. It was good for me learning. And when I went over to Warmachine, it was really clear that there wasn't the same size of community. It's not saying that the Warmachine community was worse or anything like that, but I mean, it's a simple thing of numbers, right? There's a certain number of people in the world that play 40K, and that number is higher than the number of people who play Fantasy, and that number is higher than the number of people who play War Machine, right? Which is also be higher than if you want to look at something at like Armada or something like that. And if 40K is getting a bloated ego, well then they can be looking at Magic the Gathering, right? Like there's a definite slope, and I mean, I knew I was going down to I know I was transitioning over to an area where I wasn't going to be seeing the same views. My viewers were all Fantasy people, GW people, and although some loyal ones would come over, I would have to basically start off from scratch and work my way up. And for a while, it looked like it did, you know. My views went way down, which I'm cool with, and then it started going up, and I think it was again where part of it that was helping it go up is I was doing the War Machine Wednesdays, where I was bringing people in, and I was recording it and voicing it over, and then again, just because of life getting too busy and doing other things, I stopped doing that, and then my views started going down, and they've been kind of stable and not going anywhere. And I mean, when I compare it to other channels, ones like, you know, Advanced Maneuvers or Arcane Assist, you know, their numbers are much higher, where I'd love to see them, like, you know, that's closer to where I was in my fantasy days. And I was hoping I could get there, but I also have to acknowledge that my reports aren't anywhere to the same quality as theirs, right? When Arcane Assist does theirs, they got a group of people who can get together, they have all the effects going on, they got different lists going on, different people. It's very interesting all the time. Whereas mine is just the plain old pictures, it's always me, and I mean, I can admit that it's, you know, I always say I'm like the McDonald's of battle reports, right? I can shoot them out there, I can do lots, but they're just nowhere as close. So I mean, the fact that, you know, I'm lower, I don't feel bad about that. I'm not saying, oh man, I'm not the same as Arcane Assist or, you know, Advanced Maneuvers. You know, I don't have the name of like Banky in the War Machine community to draw people in. I don't have a big podcast that's going to draw people in. I was just trying as a small guy, and I'm noticing that it's not going anywhere. Now that's fine, you know. I've always been kind of happy with it. I mean, it's not like even when I did Fantasy, it was always big numbers. But I think the big trigger that happened that kind of changed my mind is when my family was off in Ontario, and I was trying to do a couple of videos every single day, and it was like content, and then going with the flow, I eventually got into the one talking about how the sexy models and that type of way, and I was trying to make that point where I tried making that video. It was like, hey, look, just like how sex sells and look how these models will sell out there, I'm going to show you it by making this video like that. And so whereas like a lot of my videos would, you know, get a few hundred views, we're talking like 200 to 400 after a month or so, this video here got up to 4,000, and it just made you kind of think, like, really? I mean, I knew that's what was going to happen, but I didn't think it was going to happen to that much. And, you know, part of me said, like, okay, stop. You know, I mean, don't get upset by something you knew was going to happen. It has no bearing on the stuff you're doing. Yes, it does seem crazy that you do all this work to try and make these battle reports and videos, and you could just put up boobs and then get thousands of views. But, you know, maybe it's more so that you need to be something different, and you need to have fun again. And that's where I thought I'd be trying to go with Jeb. And I came up like, let's just have fun again. We're going to do Jeb. We're going to bring up something that's interesting and different. And I bet you people are going to love it. And I'll go with that. And although it got more likes, it still had very few views. I thought at least I'd be getting a few more, and I could see a trend and I could build on it. But it just wasn't there, which kind of just more went to go and show that my battle reports just aren't at that level. I can try and make them interesting, but when people only have half an hour to dedicate to watching YouTube, they're not going to come to my channel. They're going to be going to, one of those others that give out that very high quality, right? Again, the shining star I'll put up there is when Wargamer Girl puts out her videos, right? Like, if you see one of those there, you watch it right away, whereas mine don't. And that makes sense, right? You have limited time, I know, just like everyone else out there. You know, if you only have, even some people don't even have the half an hour per day, right? They're trying to sneak it in somewhere, like on a bus ride or something. But I understand that people are going to be going to other areas. And so, again, just like the tournaments, where I had to ask myself, is it worth it hurting myself financially and time-wise from time I'm taking away from the family? Is it worth it for the YouTube as well? And I think at the end, then, when I was starting to look at everything, I gotta say that it's probably time for me to step back from this as well. It was almost ready to ramp up. There was kind of a real push, like well, maybe it's more internally, but with John stepping back, I was like, yeah, I should try doing more fun things. I should try putting out some more content, a lot more fun stuff every single week. I know somebody was wanting to also do a podcast with me as well, so things are starting to look up, and I was just like, is it going to be worth this time going into it when it's not going to have any results? And it's like, right now I just had to pause the video because I had my kids coming down wanting to spend time with me, and I had to shoo them away, right? Every time I do these videos, that's time I'm not spending with my family. And even if I try doing it in the evenings, that's then time I'm not spending with my wife. And so I just think overall, maybe this is the time to hang up the shoes. So or the gloves, or however you put it, the dice, I don't know, I'll still be playing. But so that's really it. The update, I guess, then would be that I am going to be stopping the channel. I'm not going to delete it or anything like that. Of course, if anybody wanted to watch any of these videos, they'll still be there. And there's still the chance I might do the odd thing in the future. But for the most part, I really have no plans to. I think I'm going to try focusing on just enjoying playing the game instead of having to do all the cameras and trying to think of, I'm playing this game and I want the game to be good for a battle report. It's just like, I'm just going to play the game because I want to enjoy it. I'm going to go to a tournament because I enjoy it. And so I guess I want to really thank all my viewers who have been with me over the many years. I know some of you, even though you don't care at all about Warmachine, you stuck around this entire time, so thank you very much for everyone who supported me. Same thing for locally, right? Everyone who supported me and had planned to go to my events and likes it when I do all things, thank you. And I mean, the big thing is just knowing that there are other avenues out there, right? There are going to be other people who's going to start running things locally. There's, like I said, much more content out there for YouTube and Battleports, and much better. So I'm sure you have a lot of great places to go. I guess some the specialist of the thanks would have to go out to Once Bitten. He was definitely someone that was the #1 inspiration for it all, right? Just someone who was out there that was a leader in the community, that wanted to do battle reports, and was kind of like that full package of not like just the guy who did the battle reports or just the guy who supported things locally. He tried to do it all, and then wasn't cocky about it anyway, right? He was humble about it, and he was just always very helpful, and yeah, and he's still going strong. So there you go. Thanks to everybody, and otherwise, well, hopefully see you later. Bye.